Hi, Lumix Luminary Bob Coates here, and I'd like to share with you what I call my nature shooting kit. This is what I do when I go out and I'm looking to shoot some wildlife, and I want to go out for an entire time frame that covers, like, say, dawn to past noon, or that afternoon time to evening. So I will have a lot of different shooting situations, so I want to carry a lot of gear. So my kit is 3 camera bodies. And that's what I want to do this entire shot. 3 camera bodies with 5 lenses and some other ancillary equipment, and grand total of the weight is less than 11 pounds. If I throw in a full-on bigger tripod to go with me too, then it goes up to almost 15 pounds, but that's it. So just to give you an idea, the first and probably my favorite camera combination and lens for doing wildlife and chasing around in nature is the GX85. And the GX85 paired with the 100 to 400 millimeter lens. So that's an equivalent 200 to 800 millimeter lens. Now, the nice part about the newer Lumix cameras, starting with the GX85, is that it has 5-axis image stabilization. And what that means is the chip is kind of doing this and acting like a little gyroscope and taking care of a lot of your problems there. The lens also has its stabilization, which goes yin and yaw, back and forth. Then the two are talking to each other, so you get actually 5 stops of extra hand holdability with this gear. So that means that even when I've extended this out to the 800 millimeter equivalent, I can hand hold this easily at 125th of a second, even down to a 60th of a second. Had some okay luck with a 30th of a second, and some really spotty luck less than that, but still 800 millimeter equivalent lens with that on there. You'll notice here that I have a slightly different kind of camera strap. These are from Peak Design, and the nice part about these is that they are very quickly adjustable to move from camera to camera. Just pop them off there. They just have a quick little clip that pops on and off there. And then if I want to put the camera on the tripod, I don't have to worry about the camera strap flapping in the wind or trying to tie it up to keep it where I want to do. So if I'm doing time lapse or doing video or something like that, I can just pop this off. I can change it over and put it onto another camera if I want, and that's pretty handy to have that. The second camera that I take with me, and this is because I'm going through midday, and you can do this too, take an older camera body and have it converted to infrared. I had mine done by LifePixel, and this is the Lumix G6. And any other older body that you're not using that's sitting on the shelf, gathering a little dust, that's a great candidate for getting your infrared set up. On there, I have a 14 to 140, that would be a 28 to 280 equivalent lens, and very happy with that range. Nice wide angle for the scenics, and then being able to zoom in and do a lot of cropping in camera. One of the things that I do for my infrared cameras, I set it on monochrome. And what monochrome does is I'll be able to see on the screen exactly what the camera sees and see it as a black and white image, which is beautiful because it really gets me close. It also helps with choosing the exposure and how much the contrast is going to be and what it's going to be like. I also find that I will shoot this in and view your images. You'll see them as black and white on the camera, but if you only save them as RAW files, once you've imported them into your editing system, like Adobe Photoshop, or get them into Lightroom, that JPEG that's showing on the camera disappears. So in order to keep that around, I shoot in RAW plus JPEG, so that if I really want to quickly upload an image that's already been processed to black and white, it's already done. But I still have the RAW file with all the bulk of the information available for future processing. So that's handy for through the middle of the day because we have such contrasty light, and that makes the infrared makes the skies go black, the white clouds will pop out, rocks get kind of gritty, trees and greenery will kind of flower, and green trees will show up as white in your black and white. So it's quite a different look and makes that midday time of shooting fun. The other camera that I carry with me is a small, another rangefinder type body. It's called the GX8. And mounted on there I have the 20 millimeter 1.7. And the reason I keep that like that is because I can take this and inside my Think Tank mirrorless mover camera bag, which I've had since I went to mirrorless. This thing is really handy. I can hold a camera with a lens on it and 2 other lenses and some ancillary stuff like batteries and a couple other things I'll tell you about. But I can just stick that right in there. So with one camera on one shoulder, one camera on the other shoulder, this right here with 2 other lenses. Let's talk about those 2 other lenses. This is a pretty sweet piece of glass. This is a Leica 12 to 60 or 24 to 120 equivalent, 2.8 to 4.0 lens. Very, very, very sweet. I'm finding this on my camera an awful lot as just a knockabout, and for my doing a lot of my pro work with that. And then for the really wide angle stuff for my scenics, the 7 to 14 f4. This lens is really sweet. There is no barrel distortion. It's very, so if you kick your camera up or down a little bit, when you straighten those lines back out, they are dead straight on, and it's quite beautiful. So in addition to the other stuff in the Think Tank bag, I've got some batteries up here. I also carry a tripod in here. You may say, what? A tripod in here? Yep, right in here. Just kind of reach in and dig in my little bag here, and yep, there's my tripod. And I gotta tell you, this little thing is quite handy. And you say, well, Bob, that's pretty small. What can you do with that? Well, number one, because we're working with small, lightweight cameras, I mean, obviously I wouldn't put the 100 to 400 millimeter on here. Oh, maybe I would, because I could use it to push up against a tree or something. But right here, I can take a low angle and have it on the ground. I can put it on a table, a fence post, a car, so I can get more height if I need to. And the other thing is we can hold it up against a tree, a light post. There's any number of ways that we can use this, anything to help support the camera. Now the reason I have the third camera, which is the GX8, is I use this for capturing my time-lapse images. And while I'm working with my time-lapse, I can have this camera clicking away and working its magic while sitting over there on a tripod or wherever it's hanging out. And then I can run around with my other camera gear and make other images. So that's a pretty handy way to go. One thing to note in the Lumix cameras, a really cool feature is that when you capture the time lapses, you can process them straight out in the camera. So right on the back of the camera, you can say, okay, I want to save this out as a 4K video, take all those images and process them out at 24 frames per second. And it'll say, hey Bob, it's going to take us about 5 minutes to do that. Do you want to go ahead? You say, yep. And then the video is viewable right on the back of the camera. You can say, wow, geez, 24 frames a second, that seems to be a little fast for the scene that I'm shooting. You can reprocess it out at 12 frames a second, or 8, or 6, or 4, or 2. So you have the ability to do that. You can also process it out to 4K video size, so that you can take it and then move it on a timeline. Whenever I'm working with video, I try and work and capture in 4K. And the reason for that is we will work on a 1080 timeline. You can do Ken Burns effects of sliding across an image and panning across. We can move from angle to angle. We can zoom in and zoom out and not lose any quality because 4K is 4 times the size of the 1080. A couple other things that I have with me is I have this hanging on my belt, which is a nice light little guy from Westcott. It's a 5-in-1 reflector, but I usually leave the reflector parts at home and just bring this part right here. That's got a serious spring in it. You'll get used to playing with that. I usually just use the diffuser. And the main reason for that is when you're shooting flowers, you can have the flower up under here and really get some nice light on your flower that's just there. Or it can also be used as a reflector. And it's really quite handy to allow you to control your light on scene. And let's see, sometimes I'm out, after dark and I'm heading back and I've got my nice little LED headlamp. The headlamp all has red LEDs possible if I'm working at night, or it also switches over to white LED lights so that you can find your way home if you stayed out a little past dark out on those trails. So grand total, one more thing, I got this guy hanging on my belt, and this is left over from DSLR days, and basically that's just so that it's just an empty container so that I can put the 100 to 400 millimeter lens, on my waist, and if I was going to change out to one of the other lenses. That too. And then last but not least, and only weighing in at 4 more pounds, if I want to do multiple exposures for HDR to really work on some stuff heavy duty, or doing focus stacking, then I would get my Me Photo tripod out, and this is the Road Tripper, and again it weighs only 4 pounds, quite handy, nice and sturdy, comes in right about here is its height. I found that's good. The Backpacker, which is the one that's a little bit one level down from this, comes to about here. I found that one to be a little bit short for my needs. So grand total, under 15 pounds if I wanted to take all of this gear with me, due to the fact that we're working with the Micro Four Thirds system. Really happy about all that. And by the way, camera making this video, GH5 right over there. Hope you've enjoyed some of these ideas and they work well for you. Talk to you soon.